Buckeye fans, welcome inside the Horseshoe on a gorgeous November. That's right, November afternoon as we get you set for the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Penn State Nittany Lions. Anthony Moeglin joining you for our picks and preview show as we are about 90 minutes away from watching this matchup that, you rewind 4 months and this had all the makings, it had all the ingredients to be a top 5 matchup, likely a matchup between the number 1 and number 2 team in the country, but today's storylines are far from that. On the field behind me is going to feature 2 teams on totally different trajectories right now. On the Ohio State sidelines, the Buckeyes are thinking national championship again, as they are the number 1 team in the country, and they are clicking on all cylinders. Their defense is largely regarded as the best defense in the country, and you're not going to find much argument against that. On offense, they're doing it a little bit differently this year. Maybe not so much different for them, but different for compared to the rest of the entire country. They're going with a slow pace, and they're using efficiency and execution to just choke teams out, and they're in a really, really good spot. On this side of the field, on the Penn State side of the field, it is a team that is in a total free fall. They've lost 4 straight games. They come in today with a 3-4 record. Their best win is probably against Florida International. They have losses to Oregon, UCLA, Northwestern, and a drubbing against Iowa that it just feels like this team is at a loss right now. And the quickest way to feel a lot better about your season is to beat the number 1 team in the country, and they are going to try to do that today, but it is not going to be an easy task. For Penn State, obviously, the biggest storyline regarding them is the firing of head coach James Franklin. But there are 2 other coaching storylines that are going to be impacting today's game. The first one is their defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. If we all remember that, Buckeye fans everywhere remember what happened last year. As Ohio State came into this stadium here behind me, it was, I think, January 24th, maybe 23rd. They brought the national championship trophy home. The stadium was full of students and fans. They had the trophy here, but one person was missing. It was Jim Knowles, and everyone wondered where the heck he was at. Turns out he was on a plane to State College to sign the biggest coordinator contract in the country and to leave and to join the arch rival and join a team with national championship aspirations. Obviously, we've already touched on that. They won't be making the playoff this year, but there's a lot of Ohio State's going to take this one personally. Ryan Day talked about it this week in his media availability. He said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you pretty much that, him and Jim are best buddies. They haven't talked since Jim left. And you could tell, I really, you can read a lot between the lines when Ryan Day speaks because he's very intentional about what he says. And he's basically like, kind of in a roundabout way saying he's taking this one personal. And I know his players are going to follow suit in that. So that's certainly something to keep your eye on. Also, one of the biggest stories that is coming out of this week that kind of, one of those where there's smoke, there's fire situations is Brian Hartline as a potential candidate for the Penn State head coaching job. Obviously, what Brian Hartline has done as the Ohio State wide receivers coach for the last 6 seasons has been nothing short of remarkable. He is by far and away the best wide receiver coach in the country, definitely at the NCAA level, at the college football level. You could probably make an argument at the pro level too because he is one of a kind. The way he recruits, the way he coaches these kids up is second to none. And the one thing that's been missing from the Penn State program is that elite wide receiver. Does Brian Hartline becoming the head coach at Penn State make a lot of sense? I don't know. Time will tell, and there's certainly some mutual interest on both sides as the rumors have started to swirl that he is a top candidate there. But flipping the thing back to the Ohio State side of things, they have their mindset set not only on winning today, but getting ready for another run to the college football playoff and to the national championship. And how do you do that? Well, you have to have a solid run game. Ohio State was built primarily on the run last year, and they threw off of that. Now, this year, it's been a little bit harder to get things going. They've been really mixing it up in the backfield. There's been 4 guys, really, that have surfaced as guys that are going to carry the football. C.J. Donaldson, the transfer from West Virginia at the beginning of the year, was kind of that bell cow, and him and James Peoples were getting those 1 and 2 carries. And then a freshman started to rise. Bo Jackson, the Clevelander, started to come up and prove that, hey, I'm worthy of playing right now. I'm ready to go right now. And he kind of leapfrogged everybody into that number 1 running back role. And then another young buck, Isaiah West, looks a lot like Travion Henderson when he carries the football. But he's been getting his chances to carry the football. As you see, the Penn State Nittany Lions are warming up behind me. There's some fans that are starting to roll in, which is always really exciting here. But Ohio State's still trying to figure out their run game. And their offensive line up front has been great in the pass protection. haven't been so much so in the run game there. But so why is that a big area of emphasis today? Penn State's awful against the run, and they're in 2 of their 4 losses, they've given up over 200 yards rushing against UCLA. UCLA ran for nearly 300 yards on them, similar to Iowa. Now, largely in both of those games, the quarterbacks had a big impact on the run game. Both quarterbacks ran for over 120 yards. I don't anticipate Ohio State leaning into Julian saying the runner today, but I do anticipate Ohio State trying to figure out who they are on the ground and find that identity there. Now, when they do drop back to pass, I expect to see it to look very similar to how it's looked all year. It is advantage Buckeyes absolutely on the outside, as it is every week, but Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate have 2, we'll say conservatively, 2 of the top 5 receivers in the country. For the money of everybody in here today, they have the top 2 wide receivers in the country, and you're going to be hard pressed to find an argument against that, because Carnell Tate's been spectacular this year, alongside of the enigma Jeremiah Smith, the guy who is just totally unbelievable every time he touches the football, every time he takes the field. Now, the challenge for Julian Sain is, while Penn State is 3-4 and struggling right now, they still got some guys on defense, and this will be their best test against the pass today. So I do think it's a good opportunity for Julian Sain to continue to hone in on his craft, continue to prove that he's the most accurate passer in America and one of the best passers in all of America. Excited to see that one up front. But all in all, it's going to be a really, really fun matchup. We go into this thing currently, as it sits right now, as we are 90 minutes from kickoff, Ohio State is 18.5-point favorites. The over-under 44.5. If you really wanted to take Ohio State's money line, sitting at minus 1,800. Not good value there. Those odds come from ESPN Bet. So for me, I see this game, I see this in 2 ways. If Ryan Day decides to take this one personally and really push the tempo and run it up, I joked with Brennan, who will be with us on the postgame show today. I joked with him, like, what if Ohio State just came out and Ryan was like, screw it, I'm going to shove it up there, or, shove it down their throat. And he came out in a spread offense and was just plays, and score as many points as possible. Certainly would be a lot of fun. Definitely don't envision that happening. I do think Ohio State's going to stay within their personality of really slow. I wrote about it this week. It's shockingly slow. They're averaging 62 plays a game, which is ranked 123rd in the country. They're down there with the likes of like Army and Navy, the academies, who run the ball every single play. All that's intentional. I encourage you to go find my article and read it. But I don't anticipate them getting away from that today. However, I do think the mindset of these players is going to lend to some more execution and getting in the end zone. We've had red zone struggles. We've had scoring touchdown struggles all year long. I think some of that gets solved today. And I do think this Ohio State team on the defense and on the offense is going to take this sucker personally, man, because, what Jim Knowles did to them last year was messed up, man. There's ways. Ryan Day talked about it today, and it was a lesson for everybody, really. There's ways to end relationships. There's ways to move on from jobs. There's ways to move on from people. And the way Jim Knowles handled it was not the right one. And a lot of the Buckeyes still have that thing on their mind. So my pick for today is Buckeyes huge. I got the Buckeyes 48, Penn State 3. I think it's going to be impossible for Penn State to move the football, and a really good opportunity for Ohio State to really suffocate the run. I think there's been 2 games that stood out to me that Ohio State's defense has struggled against the run. It's Texas, and it was honestly Grambling. Texas ran for over 170 yards. Grambling was about 130. And those ones stand out to me of like, hey, if there's one thing that you can nitpick about this Ohio State defense, it's that they've at times, not all the time, at times have been susceptible in the run. I think that's the only way Penn State's got a chance to win, to stay in this football game. They got freshman quarterback Ethan Gunkmeyer from 20 minutes north of here, from Columbus. He's the Penn State quarterback today, redshirt freshman. They just don't have a chance to move the football on offense, and I think Ohio State's defense is out to prove that, hey, Jim, you made a big mistake, and we're the best unit in the country. So I got the Buckeyes 48. I got Penn State 3. It's going to be a ton of fun. If you made it this far with me this morning, really appreciate you hanging in and joining us. I encourage you to follow along here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and you like the channel. Make sure you're getting over to Buckeyes Roundtable. The ticker is going at the bottom of our page. here, get over there, follow me, follow our team. We're going to have content for you throughout the game. I'll have a game thread going so you can interact directly with me. And then post-game, we'll have the press conferences. We'll have a post-game reaction show with myself and Brennan. And then we'll have a bunch of stories up over there. So make sure you're following along. But it's November football, man. We are getting to the tail end of this season, headed into the home stretch. While that part is sad, it is a lot of fun because the intensity ramps up, the urgency ramps up because teams are fighting for their lives. And the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to be fighting for their life today and the opportunity to stay undefeated, to stay the number one team in the country, and to continue on their path towards a national championship. Exciting day here inside the Horseshoe, and I appreciate you jumping in and hanging out with me. I'll join you after the game, after the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Penn State Nittany Lions clash inside Ohio Stadium. Excited for it. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody, and we'll see you after.